All right, so welcome to the channel. Today we're at So Cycles with Dave Moss. If you've ever gone and Googled or YouTubed motorcycle suspension tuning, this guy right here is right at the top of that list. So thank you so much for meeting up with us today, Dave.
It's my pleasure, Tim. Thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah, well, thank you. This is an incredible experience. I had my bike tuned by you a couple months ago when you were up here, and we put together a little video, and a lot of people have seen that short that we made where you popped up and you were like, "You wheelie a lot?" And me, regretfully, I was like, "Sometimes,
Maybe."
Yeah, maybe. But yeah, no. So it's been an incredible journey so far. And how's your day been today?
Today, everybody was fearful of the rain, so they all smashed in this morning.
Yeah.
Knocked everybody out. It was schedule for a full day, but everybody was gone by 2 o'clock.
Okay.
But I started early.
All right. So today, you said everybody was smashing in to get.
It's gonna rain.
Yeah. I mean, we're in the Pacific Northwest though.
Oh God, I raced here from '95 to 2001.
Wow.
So I know all about looking at the West Hills at Portland and going, rains right now. And seeing the weather come. I grew up in Manchester in the UK where it's wet 200 days a year.
Right.
So the transition from the US to the Pacific Northwest weather-wise was identical.
Seamless, right?
Yep. And riding bikes was no different either, other than that was in the 80s and this is the 2000s. So somewhat better motorcycles, but not like we have today.
That road technology and asphalt and everything's all different now.
Way more grip, way more fun in the rain than it used to be. It was survival. But the big thing is, I think people just want the time and the dry to go test the setup they were given. Mm-hmm. They don't want to go test it in the rain because they're really not going to feel a whole lot. Yeah. And the simple reason that is cold air, cold water, and slow speeds mean the oil in the suspension stays thick.
Oh, that makes sense.
And then when they go to the dry and they wick it up from 60 to 80 to 100, then all of a sudden the bike's handling completely different and they're not ready for that change. So they'd rather come in when it's dry and not necessarily warm, but dry, so they can go out and ride the roads they ride at the pace they ride and actually feel the difference.
Yeah. No, I daily my motorcycle, almost every day. I ride back and forth to work though. Granted, it's not a long trip. It's about 9 miles one way. But for me, I need the suspension to be good for that. And then every now and then I go to the track, which today we went. We went and did the WMRRA's Taste of Racing.
Good. That's a fun program.
It was incredible. It was so much fun. We'll talk on that. So you travel a lot.
Yeah. Back in the day when motorcycles were really at their peak, I was doing 310 track days a year.
And that was doing the suspension tuning, or was that you racing?
Nope. That's just suspension tuning. That dropped to 257 for the better part of a decade, and then it just has plummeted from there. Just people don't have that kind of money anymore. The economy hit a couple of crashes, and so now it's right around 120 track days a year.
Okay.
Something like that, which frees me up then to go travel and teach. So then I can go to places like So Cycles to come and put on events and then give 15 minutes per person so I can teach something and they can leave with 3 nuggets that they can leverage for the rest of their motorcycle life. And so being able to go and teach classes and adjust at the same time is great for me because they can pay it forward in the motorcycle community and they can go save a life.
And that's part of your mission, right?
That's my only mission.
That's your only mission?
Because by the time I was 23, most of my friends were dead.
From motorcycle
Because
related?
we were stupid English kids racing on very poor handling motorcycles and going down country lanes. And then you'd run into a combine harvester in the middle of the road. So you had to go all the way up the grass verge, try and miss the hedge, get the bike back into the road. Now everything's full of grass and mud. Now you're all over the place, and then because you can't be last to the pub because you've got to buy all the beers. And so we're just,
Oh, wow.
and then we'd be doing that in a freeway.
Yeah.
And on the motorways in the UK, everything is corrugated waved iron holding up a barrier. So it's just slices you in pieces. So we grew up with all of that because if you study the Ace Cafe way back when, you put the money in the jukebox machine and you had to make the lap. All of that stuff existed way back when, but tires didn't work, tires didn't have grip, crappy suspension, and it was just raw power. So that's how we grew up. And when I stopped playing rugby, because I was just aging out from so many injuries over the 30 something years I played it, motorcycling and racing motorcycles fell into exactly the same timing pattern. But the first thing I did was go find the oldest guys I could. I fed them scotch and beer, and I sat and took a notebook and listened for almost 6 months. And all that came up was suspension, geometry, tires. Over and over and over. And then I'm like, you know what? They're taking me for a ride.
Yeah.
Let's go to the really fast guys and just sit and listen. So back then it was Sean Roberti at Portland, Oregon. Chassis, suspension, tires. Settings.
Okay.
Ambient temperature. Rain versus dry. So these guys are having fun. This guy's here to win.
Right.
That's level 2. So what does it take to get to level 3, which was then AMA? Well, a lot more than that. Maintenance. Hour after maintenance, cleaning your brakes every day because it rained in the afternoon.
Okay.
Toothbrush, soapy water, get in there. And so there would be 2 to 3 hours of maintenance on the bike after the day of either the track day or the race day for the next day. I was going, okay, that's level 3. Well, that makes perfect sense to me because if you're going to win, your bike has to be perfect. Because you can't compete on a bike that's just getting beaten up and beaten up and beaten up, and eventually something's going to fail.
Yeah.
So then I forced an internship in Circuit 1 suspension. I said, I don't make tea, I do sweep the floor, I'm going to learn, and you're going to let me learn. Because I'm going to build a race bike, and I'm going to ride it, and I'll fail, and I'll fail, and I'll fail, and then I need some advice if I can't figure it out.
Wow.
So I started the internship. I got an FCR 400, which came in 7 boxes, built it, and then went through, okay, I've got this. Now, they said chassis. What is it? What does that mean? And then I learned about swing arm angle and gearing and chain length and shock length and fork position. Like, okay, I get that because you can do this with a bike.
Yeah.
And where's optimal? Because you've got to figure that out. Okay, what about suspension? Well, the shock was just a little ramp adjuster, and it was a 1980 shock in 1995, full of rust. Well, I better clean that up.
Yeah.
Not replace it. I better clean it up. So I cleaned it up, and I went to the forks. What do I do with the forks? I opened the cap, and it was just like a baby diaper, pure ammonium. Just going, all right, strip clean.
Yeah.
Took them apart, learned all that. Started racing, bottomed out instantly. Turn 1 at Portland. Not fun. Mile long straight. Okay, why did I bottom out? So there's got to be 3 reasons.
Right.
Chassis geometry, spring rate, oil volume. Okay, well, where am I? I bottomed out. Well, am I at maximum travel? That was the first question that was asked. I'm like, what? Are you at maximum travel? Oh, God.
Oh no. Yeah. That's about how I felt when you'd mentioned to me about hitting mechanical bottom.
Yep.
Here I am on a Ducati, this bespoke bike, and I didn't realize I was thrashing essentially without even knowing.
Yeah. So the lessons continued from there.
Yeah.
Then at Seattle, coming around the bottom, the shock shaft broke in half because of the rust, and I went straight at the granite cliff, and thank God I stopped because the rear wheel went straight up into the wheel well.
Yeah.
So I emotionally recovered from that, got a Fox Shock at the time, very popular,
Oh, those were.
and continued on. And at that point, everybody's going, who's that guy? Because I just showed up, I played rugby, I'd never raced motorcycles, and I'm getting on the podium. Like, who's this guy?
That's incredible.
And I go, I am a crappy racer. If I was that good, I would have gone to AMA and done really well. I went there for the experience. They said it's all about the bike. Get the bike right and you don't have to do anything.
You got to work a whole lot less harder. It's like having a dull knife versus a sharp knife.
Exactly. So then I just started helping people.
Yeah.
And they started coming elbow to elbow with me, which was great. So let's help more people.
Yeah.
Let's help more. And all of a sudden you've got an 8-year-old soccer game, just elbow to elbow, going around the track, getting off the track, going, yeah, it's awesome. And so that got me into the progress of doing it to help other racers have more fun. So that when some idiot left 6 inches, I could take it and I could protect the person. No problem at all. I could put the bike right there. Thank you very much. Damn it. And so that continued then to just be me helping people get more and more people faster and faster and faster, which made the racing better and better and better.
And safer.
Yeah. And then we were talking one night about street riding, and all of a sudden it popped in my head. Ooh. Why am I just helping these guys? Yeah, it's fun, and yeah, it's worthwhile.
Yeah.
But this is 0.00002 of the motorcycle population. I need to start putting this out there.
Well, yeah, you gotta. It's almost like in anything, right? Like any professional sports, you know, you go and you learn from the pros, and then you take it to the general population or those who are interested in it.
Right.
'Cause I played a lot of competitive billiards, and there's a lot of focus on the pros, but the largest portion of the demographic are all amateurs. That feeds the pros.
Yeah, exactly.
And so that flaw or that there's a word I'm trying to think of right now, but yeah, taking your knowledge from what you learned from club racing and pros, and taking that and spreading it out to the general motorcycle community. That one brings in more interest into motorcycling. Two, it makes everybody safer because now they understand their bike and it's being set up properly. So you grew up in, you said England, right? Or
Manchester.
And
Don't get that wrong.
Manchester. Yeah.
Yeah, it was an iron, coal, and steel town at the time.
Oh, wow.
So every Tuesday and Thursday we had to go to school with a scarf around our face because all the chimneys were getting backfired from the factories.
Oh.
It was a miserable existence when we were kids. Miserable.
Dang. So we covered a lot of the questions that I had already prepared with just that beginning part. It's great because you're used to this, right? Like you're used to sitting down and talking and
Yeah, very
whatnot.
freely. Whatever people want to know, I have no problem sharing things I've learned because that could help somebody make a better choice. And that better choice for me is that father, son, daughter, uncle, auntie goes home with a big smile, gets off their bike and goes, you know, that was a great day. And they come home, and that's really what drives me. And bikes evolve. Look how complicated they are now with yours.
Yeah.
You have to learn a computer before you ride the bike.
Oh, yeah.
And so it's not analog anymore where it's rider and skill. You've got all these aids, which is magnificent for new riders coming into the sport. But you have to learn the computer first.
Yeah. So that was one of my questions. And that is, do you think that rider aids have aided or hindered motorcycle, like rider ability? Both in street riding and then going into racing?
Okay. So that's a multi-layer question. So I think the biggest piece for me, and there's a good example to draw from New Zealand and Australia, they force manufacturers to do ABS and. to take care of their riding population. So there's a political agenda there based on statistics which show if these features are available on the bike, the risk of injury is probably going to be less in severity.
Yeah.
So there's the political aspect of forcing that. There's the technological aspect of development. Whether that comes down from World Superbike or MotoGP, it comes to us way faster. That is a bonus where the bike is safer to ride.
Yeah.
The flip side, we're human, we're individuals, we have choices. When your choice is defined by a computer, some get angry. And those that get angry like to use tools. Some are ecstatic because it's, and I don't need tools. So that side of the fence caters to two demographics.
Yeah.
And then you can have bikes that have both. There's mechanical adjustments and electronic features that you can leverage. So I think overall, when you're a new rider, we will never get rid of the ergonomic challenge because humans are humans and the bell curve is enormous for height, weight, inseam, arm length, spine length, hand size, finger length. We're always going to have that problem because a motorcycle is always going to be pitched at a bell curve the manufacturer's reference. Same is true of suspension. Where do we sell all these bikes?
Yeah.
There. So let's pitch it right in the middle of that, which makes sense because it's a production company trying to hit the meat of the market to get the most sales. Then the other side of the fence is today's generation is all, I want to map my suspension and power from my phone.
Oh, yeah.
So there's options. And so if we're going to keep people in the sport, we have to have the technology present where they can resonate with it and associate with it, and it makes sense to them. So all those chrome domes that are aging out, that are used to analog bikes, now have to learn all of this stuff. It's not that hard. It just requires presence of mind to be...
You think there's a level of frustration in that?
Yeah. So from a street perspective, because the street is so inconsistent, traction control, slide control, wheelie control, ABS, all of those features for riders that are, say, 0 years through to about 5 years are a godsend. Because they get in a situation and go, because it's new to them, then that feature can really make a profound difference in reducing dramatically the severity of whatever that consequence is.
Yeah, exactly.
When you get to 5+ years, and this is just average, it's not saying the kid that gets on an R1 for their first bike and does 180 miles an hour. When you get to 5 years, you want to ride. So there's that split again of I want to go touring and urban and sport and tap, 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 done. On the other side, I want my bike to handle like this. Oh, well, I can do this, I can do that, I can change rebound, I can change compression, I can change geometry. Now I can 100% make the bike mine.
Exactly.
So there's two sides of the fence to that. So I think the technological side is amazing, staggering. But when you want to push, get off the street. If your average is 80 to 140 miles an hour, just go to the track.
Yeah.
And the biggest piece about that for me is that when you're on the street, how long is medical going to take to get to you?
Exactly.
That's all. Too many friends over the last few years have bled out because it took an hour for the ambulance to get there. So if you're at the track and something happens, medical is 2 minutes away.
Yeah, no, literally they're parked right there on the side of the racetrack.
So for those that think it's cool to do the Ghost Rider thing and rip it and video it, and please just don't. Go to the track. You're not going to get ticketed, and the worst part is you're not going to hurt somebody else.
Well, that, and it also gets that out of your system. A lot of guys, they want to go, mock Jesus because, they're not getting that adrenaline rush,
Sure.
on the street. But if they took it to the track,
Yeah.
then most definitely they'd be able to, get that out. And then when they're on the street, they're not tempted to, go and do that.
And everybody that's done track days, it's amazing how differently they ride the street.
Oh yeah.
It really shows you what you shouldn't do. And I think, to your point, when does this get in the way? We will always have two groups. We'll have the hands-on tools guys, and we'll have the push-button guys. Having more electronic aids is great to get you to A group.
Yeah.
It's awesome to get you to A group because you can learn with a lot more safety and a machine that can be controlled while you learn. When you get to be proficient and master a machine, whether it's a Ninja 400, a 600, 750, or 1000, then you can leverage those aids. So there's great footage of BMW S1000s. Rear wheel, 10 degrees out, full throttle, knee down, and it stays at 10 degrees.
Oh, yeah.
And there's awesome footage of how all these electronics work. But you have to have the skill level to get to it, to leverage it. So there's a big difference between the street and how that works. And at the track, can it work for you? It can. But do you have the cojones or the logical brain to get to that point and push it to that point and leverage it to take advantage of it?
Right.
So those tool guys tend to be on analog bikes. The push button guys tend to have the electronic bikes, and it's a very interesting divide.
That is. Yeah, because I saw an interview with Casey Stoner, and he was commenting on rider aids and how he feels that it has taken away some from pro, like the top tier guys, to where he believes that it would raise the level of competition by eliminating rider aids in that top tier group, to where those guys riding the bikes are the ones who are riding the bikes, and it's not, winglets and rider aids, traction control, wheelie control, and all that they actually have to really ride the bike. I also believe that a lot of that comes from his background, though, starting out in dirt bikes, where you really got to know how to control the throttle to be able to really rip it through a turn and then be out the apex, 100% throttle.
Yeah.
And I don't know, because I'm not at that level, but so that was one of my questions. That was why it was one of my questions that I had for you was on that, because there's a big like debate on rider aids when it comes to motorcycle racing.
Yeah.
But there is a European championship where there is no rider aids, isn't there?
Yeah, there's plenty of classes where you have to ride the stock bike. AFM used to do that when I raced with them. You would race a 600. Had to have the stock engine, stock airbox, stock air filter, stock exhaust. The only thing you could do was change your gearing and upgrade your suspension and put braided lines on it.
Okay, those are all
so
the
you
same.
could ride to the track, tape your lights up, literally tape your lights up, take the passenger seat off, put the cowl on, stick your numbers in place, and race.
Sweet.
And so you literally raced your bike, and then when you were done, you put your number plates back onto your piece of plastic, you rolled it up in your backpack, you put the turn signals back on, and you rode home.
That is awesome. Now, I think we need to take a break real quick.
Real quick, fam. Cardo has partnered with the channel, allowing us to extend a 10% discount to you, our loyal viewers. Head on over to cardosystems.com and use code DUCKFAM for 10% off at checkout. Now back to the video.
When did you get into motorcycles? Like, what was that first spark? Like, how old were you? And then when did you get go and ride your first and then own your first?
Okay, so I was in a motorcycle as a fetus from the very beginning, because Mom and Dad's transportation was a motorcycle with a sidecar. My mother's waters broke with her in the sidecar outside the house, and then we were in the sidecar. There was 3 kids, Mom and Dad on the bike, and we went everywhere as a family because you could. There was nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
Nothing. And then eventually that went away. And so I didn't have a motorcycle after that until I was 17.
Okay.
Just because at 8 years old I started working.
Yeah.
I wanted money to buy stuff. And Dad works as an engineer. His salary wasn't that great. So I said, fine, I'm going to go get a job. And I started work at 8, and I kept going and just buying stuff I wanted. But it was never a motorcycle because that was way too big and too expensive. And so by the time I got to 17, I said to Dad, I want to buy a bike. He goes, you're not buying anything until you learn to strip it and rebuild it. So I went, okay. I'm going to work in a motorcycle shop. So at 14, I went to the motorcycle shop. Oi! I want to get a bike one day, but I can't ride it. My parents won't let me have it till I can strip it and rebuild it.
Right.
So I want to work here every weekend.
That is incredible.
So I did. And then just before I just turned 17, it was middle of summer, I got 3 wallpaper tables out, which are about the length of these.
Yeah.
Got up at 4:30 in the morning when it was just the crack of dawn. Got my dad's bike out and I laid it all out, all on the 3 tables. Because at 5 a.m. I had to start the fire
Yeah.
because the boiler was above the fire for the hot water for the morning. So I did the bike, started the fire, Dad came down, and he looked outside and he went, "You're either really stupid, and God, it's going to hurt, or you just got yourself a motorcycle." And I rebuilt it very quickly. It was a very simple 90cc bike. Gave him the key and he went, "No, it's yours." I go, "No, it's not. I can't afford the insurance. I don't have gear. That's going to wait maybe a year. That bike's still yours. But I wanted to prove to you that I know what's going to happen. If something goes wrong, I can take it apart, figure it out." So that's really how I started.
That is an incredible story. It is.
Because you can't stand on the side of the road and go,
Well, that's what a lot of people do these days.
"Well, they're
I
too
can't-
sophisticated.
Well, now, yeah.
Do I have spark? Do I have fuel?
I mean,
the
sucks
point's
squeeze, big
closing.
blow. Yeah.
Yeah, I've got all 3 things. All right, well, it should run. Let's figure out
not
why it's not
anymore.
running." No.
But brake light can keep the bike from starting nowadays.
I'm not exaggerating.
Oh, I know. That's a true story.
Oh, you get a check engine light.
But, that's how I got into bikes. Was just that way. And I had motorcycles my entire life. I had patches off here and there. But ever since I was little, I've been around them.
That is incredible. I mean, riding in a sidecar. I mean, my wife, when she was riding on the back of my Street Fighter from, up until about 8 months pregnant. And so my daughter, she's all about being on the bike.
I thought that was still the Super Sport.
It started out as the Super Sport, but then once I got the Street Fighter, we wanted to ride that. But she preferred the Super Sport, the much more comfortable back seats.
Yeah. Not a tablecloth.
That Super Sport out there
Or napkin.
used to be his. He bought the Street Fighter and then convinced me to learn to ride on the
that.
Super Sport.
That's a great bike to learn on.
It's very forgiving.
Yeah, it is.
But yeah, no. And so now she's all about sitting on the bike, and then when it starts, like, she tries to reach over and hit the start button. But it's
Awesome.
she can barely climb up on top of the fuel tank right now at 19 months. But so you started your motorcycling started before you were born, essentially.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then when did you get into motorcycle racing, and what was your highest level?
So I started racing in 1995 with Oregon and Washington. As I said, I got that FCR 400 and built it and raced that. Then I got an SV 650 and raced with Yannick Racing at the time. He brought me in and started teaching me the ropes, and that was again club, Oregon and Washington. And then by 2000, I was thinking, okay, I want to go south. The toughest club in the country is AFM. And there wasn't one person that didn't disagree with that statement. So I took my 400 down there and went, let's see how I stack up.
Okay.
And I felt like I was going to go get my novice license. It's like, okay, I got a lot to learn. So by 2002, I had done an ungodly amount of work to get my skills up, and then I raced AMA 250 GP for the last 2 seasons.
Okay.
And raced that. And a 250 GP bike is unbelievably complicated. You have 3 gears for each shaft and each gear.
Whoa.
You have 4 different cylinder heads. You have several sets of carburetors that you have to jet, and those carburetors have to match the cylinder head. You have to do all of that all of it before you even think about external gearing. Then when you've got your gearing right, you've got to get your chain length right. Then when you get that right, you can get your swing arm right. And when you've got all that right, you can work on the front end.
And that changes per track, right?
Per hour.
Hour.
Because if you get the jetting wrong, it doesn't have the power.
Yeah.
If you don't have the power, you've got to brake harder to make up time. So every time you went out, you had to, which is why you see people with two strokes, everything's on the table. Barometer pressure, humidity, air density, all of those factor in on what you're going to put in for my main jet, my emulsion jet, my needle. What am I going to do? And so what that taught me was what I learned with Sean Roberti. If you want to get to the national level, you've got to have this knowledge. It's like, okay, that makes perfect sense, because if you get it wrong, you're at the back of the race. And the bike's fighting and banging and popping.
Yeah.
But what it taught me was sensitivity, because we do with our hands and we feel with our bums. So what I learned then was how to feel the bike. I could tell you if a spark plug was backing out. I could tell you if a piston was starting to crack. And I could tell you which cylinder.
Oh, yeah, because you can feel where it's
yeah, you can feel where the vibration's coming from. So then when I got done with that, I went back to racing. Then I picked up a 2000 R6 and started racing that. It's like, okay, this is way more simple. But what that taught me was when I'm braking and I'm at 50 degrees lean and the brakes are half pressure and the tire's loading up, what's the tire doing? So the education level switched from the mechanical precision of the bike to actually feeling tires.
Okay, so what is there physical attributes that lean more towards how well somebody's able to get, like, extract performance out of a motorcycle? Like a horse jockey, like...
Okay, so from an anatomical perspective,
yes,
you're going to be looking at someone probably 5'8" to 6'1", somewhere in that range, because the triangle between seat to triple clamp and then seat to peg, there's a certain type that tends to be aimed at across most bikes. There are a couple of exceptions, a couple of extraordinary exceptions, but generally somewhere in that height range. In that case, you're not looking for somebody with a very long spine. You're looking for somebody who's actually pretty balanced between inseam and spine length.
Okay.
Because you don't want too long a leg, because then the legs are crushed and they can't move around on the bike. You don't want too long a spine, because then the legs are short and now you're imbalanced physically, anatomically, because there's a lot of body here and not much here.
Okay.
So there's that part. In terms of arm length, that should generally basically have your wrist level with your hip joint for your ball and socket on your femur. And then in terms of hands, your fingers should be equidistant to your palm. Because lever-wise, and I have stubbies. So lever-wise, OEM stuff comes out roughly with that 50-50 balance.
Okay.
So that's the anatomical piece. The physical piece is somebody that is a very sensory aware, like a gymnast, or a competitive athlete that's in a team sport situation who's very aware peripherally, very aware, very acute, can see things that are evolving around them, versus somebody that just does one tiny thing and is really focused in that zone.
Hyper-focused, yeah.
So there's that physical aspect in terms of functioning brain power, vision, and balance.
Okay.
Critical. And then the other piece of the puzzle is, are they right-brained, so they're emotional, because you got to drive them to learn, or are they left-brained, where they're logical, and you have to feed them information in steps where they can go, well, that means that and that means this, go out, do it, and go, okay, I get that, what's next?
Okay.
Or are you like a John Kaczynski that need to be hammered on and get really, really mad, and then he'd win races?
Just
so
upset
him. So
just send insults his way, and he'll go win you a
there's
championship.
some very famous stories, if you research that, about Mr. Kaczynski and other aspects of him as a unique human being. But that's the beauty of our sport, the reporting, all the information that's out there. There's so much great information. But in terms of a human, yeah, it's got to be in that window. Because when you look at bikes and you measure them out, and some of the rider triangles I've done to help people understand what that means in terms of the video on the YouTube channel, it helps them go, this is uncomfortable, but now they know why. And this one feels really good, but it doesn't feel good for my feet. Well, now they know why. So they go into dealerships or buying a used bike with a different set of criteria, respecting who they are. But there are those purchases where, mine. And then what's it going to take that and actually make it yours?
Right.
So there is two pieces of the puzzle.
The shiny aspect.
Well, just you've seen it. It's grown on you. As soon as you look at it, you're in love with it. There's a huge emotional connection between us and motorcycles.
Oh yeah.
And there's a huge binary connection between us and features. But then are you right brain or left brain? So then that's when it kind of splits. But the human aspect, yeah, if you're in those criterias, then you will fit most motorcycles pretty well.
Okay. So say you were a team leader or a team owner, right? You needed to build a team from scratch, starting with the motorcycle, to compete at the highest level. How would you set that up? Or what would you choose? How would you set it up? And then you got to choose 2 riders. One from the past and one current active rider. What would you choose?
Bike would be an R6, because there is probably 300 terabytes of information that's immediately available about that bike.
Okay.
It has won numerous championships. It is the go-to bike. So why make it as hard as it needs to be? If you can ride a 600 well, then the future for you in other classes, at other levels, around the world. Or challenge yourself and go to Spain, which everybody knows is where you got to prove yourself, then that's a great platform to learn on, because it's very versatile and it can be made to fit anyone because there's so many parts available for it. So that's the first thing. The second thing about that platform is there's a lot of technical data about it, for ECU, for mapping, for engine power, for geometry. There's lots of that information available to help you get that bike to the highest level of performance you can get it to. So I'm empowering the rider before they even show up.
Okay.
With the motorcycle that will exceed their capabilities.
Okay.
And when I was a crew chief at AMA, I had 7 sets of handlebars. I had 8 sets of rear sets. I have to fit the rider to the bike, because if you're having a professional and you hamstring them and don't give them what they need to do their job, they're not going to do it. Lorenzo's the greatest example of that with Ducati. I need this tank. No.
Okay.
I need this tank. No. Get me the damn tank. Okay, fine, there it is, podium.
Yeah.
Not because he decided to wick it up and go put it on the podium because he got his tank. It was because that's what he had his racing career with Yamaha. You've got to put the rider where they can do what they need to do.
Yeah, adjust the bike to fit your needs, and
their needs are very unique, so you have to respect that.
So yeah, having that tank just set right. But on the new Panigale, they went and they changed the shape of the tank. And maybe that was input from him, or
it will be input from around the world based on what the tank wants and the extensions. And everybody has tank extensions, and they took all the compound curves out of it and made it a regular tank. Now it works.
Yeah.
So there's that piece of the puzzle. Now, you were asking about 2 riders.
Yes.
I'm going to be very biased because I need a thinking rider. So, current, the most appropriate rider for me to choose right now, it is going to be a pretty obvious choice.
Yeah.
Because it's the rider that is everybody says wants to learn. Did an unprecedented thing and went to Austria, to KTM, and said, I want to win. What are we doing to help me win?
Okay.
So it's like, so Acosta is bringing as much brain power as he can to learn.
Okay.
So that would be my current rider, because I can help the benefit of my knowledge and experience. Not that I have it at that level at all, but from a rider perspective, who would I choose? That every time. From the past, probably for a slightly different set of criteria, it will be commitment. Unbridled commitment, period. That no matter what, we are going to get as far forward as we can with the tools we have. And that would be Mick Doohan.
Mick who?
Doohan.
Mick Doohan?
That will be the second rider I choose from the past, because of his absolute commitment and focus. The very, very, almost side by side will be Matt Milado. His data traces, you had to pixelate out so far to get the squares to offset.
Oh, wow. So he's that consistent.
He was beyond consistent. It was robotic. Even the data engineers were going, we don't get it. It's within 100th of a second of everything he is doing lap after lap after lap. So there's that focus, that commitment, I'm here to do this job. So those will be the riders I choose.
That is a lot more in depth than I thought it was. But and that's really good. That's incredible, because this really gives everybody an insight to the different things that are going on in that. Just a lot of people don't understand, you know.
Right. And the big thing for me is, and I'm seeing it when I travel the world and teach, and I've been touring the world since 11, teaching November through March, simply because we're down. We've got nothing to do here, but I can take my tools and travel. Is that statistically lives are being saved. Statistically, I'm helping people for 5 years grow their own business in whatever city and town around the world that I go visit.
Yeah.
And they are getting a successful business. And the whole point of this is, culturally, 10 years ago, you buy a bike and you flog the living hell out of it, because that's our culture. Now you buy a bike and there's a conversation about, well, did you get it set up? Is it fit? Do you need to? You should think about, and that conversation globally has changed, and it's evolving. And last year was 10 million people, I think, looked at the content I provided, and New Zealand keeps really, really sharp tabs on this, and the serious injury count, the death count, all of that is trending down. But the big piece of the puzzle there are businesses in towns and cities that when people buy a bike, they go straight to them and get them set up. Their culture has changed. And if I can do that and affect people in a very positive way that way, then that's most important for me. But because I got sick, that's a little bit of an ask. Cancer's not a nice thing.
Did you want to talk about that a little bit?
Well, all I'll say about that is, you have two choices. Do you want to live? Do you want to die? I chose to live. My partner, Donna, she backed me up 100%. She got me through that. I lost 80 pounds in 3.5 months by being in permanent ketosis, because the doctor said, if you don't do this, the surgery is not going to be successful.
Yeah.
And I want to bring that separate message out of get checked at 45. Don't just sit there and be a guy. Yeah, there's severe consequences from the surgery, even though it's successful. It doesn't matter. So because of her, I have a new appreciation, a different appreciation of getting a separate message out for people, but it still follows the same message. I want you to come home.
Yeah.
I want you to be there for your family. I want you to be a part of your family. I don't want you to burden everybody around you because you're gone.
Yeah.
So it's become a very different piece of the puzzle. But when we get on a motorcycle, we go somewhere else. And there's this quiet moment. How people stay on the phone on their helmet, I don't know. They need around the back of their head. Because when we get on the bike, we go somewhere different. For many of us, it puts us into a grounding situation where we just reset. We don't have to have our feet in the dirt. We don't have to do any of that. We just go ride, and for the sheer pleasure and isolation of riding, we come back refreshed. And we come back with a smile. And we may come back with a story. But the bottom line is, we have two wheels. we're massively at risk. We're completely exposed. So why are you riding on a bike that isn't set up for you? When you think about the logic of that, the simple statement is, would you ever rent a car and not move the seat?
That's
super simple statement.
Yeah.
So we're being the best and the worst of a human, which is adaptation. And you're adapting to a motorcycle, which means you buy it, you ride the hell out of it, it hurts, you ride it less, it hurts more, you sell it, you go buy another one. And so I'm trying to stop that cycle.
Yeah.
And I'm sure the motorcycle industry hates me for it.
No, we're
But
trying
it's
to sell
created-
bikes.
It's creating another part to the industry of, well, if your bike's set up for you, you're going to be around for a very long time.
Yeah.
And you're going to buy a lot of bikes. So there's a bit of a perspective there, because when bikes are sold, they can't be touched. As delivered, they go. After they've been sold and gone through the first service, then you can start changing stuff.
All right. So just like Dave said, when you get a rental car, you move the driver's seat. On a motorcycle, you want to adapt things so that the motorcycle fits you. One of the easiest ways to do that is with a new set of levers, like these from ASV. Now, the nice thing about these is that they're claimed to be unbreakable. They're made from billet aluminum, and they're super easy to adjust with these little knobs. So, say you're at the track, then you need a little bit more grip, or maybe you've got too much, you can easily, as you're going down the track, just move these nice ribbed dials. And they're extremely customizable, because a motorcycle is an expression of you. You can get these in multiple different colors.
But I changed everything when I was the GM at a Yamaha dealership before it went out the door. I wanted the bike perfect.
Yeah.
And that's not really what's acceptable. So when I'm doing testing and videos, I give settings out. Here's some information.
Yeah. The knowledge.
Think about this. And
Knowledge
so
is critically important.
yeah, I'm always happy to share information, travel, teach, and empower the people that get it to then, here's the courses you can take with me. Now go start a business. Now you get 5 years of support from me in building that business.
How many countries do you travel to regularly in a year?
Of late, obviously since COVID,
Yeah.
not very much, but basically Australia, New Zealand, India. I want to get to South Africa. I've been trying for 10 years. I can't get there. It's
What's holding you up on that one?
complicated politics
Politics.
between track day providers and riders.
Oh, okay.
It's unfortunate.
Okay.
Obviously, Great Britain and Europe. So there's a lot of places to travel.
Yeah.
Of late, Eastern Europe, in particular Croatia, and Bulgaria, screaming for me to get over there. They have a massive motorcycle population, and they want to learn. They're not interested about going fast. They want to learn how to make the bike right.
Okay.
So-
how many languages do you speak?
I French in high school. I could probably get it back fairly quick, but French and English were the two I got.
Okay.
Because I had to get everybody out of jail from the rugby trips in college, and we would always go to France, and I was the one that'd speak French and get them out of jail.
We gotta do this again when we got a little more time,
Sure.
because I think we could easily sit here for about 3 hours.
A couple hours for sure. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. So
But-
now you had a really interesting Istanbul.
Yeah, that was 18 hours. We want to learn. Can you come over? Sure. Here's the budget. This is what it's going to take. You have to have all of this ready in sequence. And when you're ready, then obviously we need about 4 to 6 weeks to book the flight, so it's not exorbitantly expensive. And then we'll book the time. Sure.
Oh, wow.
New Zealand was a guy, Sam, that emailed me and said, hey, would you come and do the track day? Like, you're out of your mind. No. No. get people together, get 3 track days organized, bring me over for 10 days, and then I want to teach classes.
Right.
Get all that sorted out, and I will get in a plane and come, and I will bear all the financial risk, all of it. But you got to give me at least the opportunity to earn the money back. So now the government flies me out every year because they know it's making a profound difference both locally with people setting businesses up and taking care, and then riders on the road. They're all about setup. What about this? How do I do that? And so I teach classes all over New Zealand to help them help each other. So there's, when you look into what's available, the culture's changed dramatically. Nobody did suspension at track days when I started in 04. Nobody. You had to be in a team, you had to have a semi, and you had dedicated people. I walked in and went, $20 a bike, bring it to me, boom. Send them away, and they're going, holy crap. Okay.
Yeah, no.
So it's been an industry almost a 180 pivot. We're probably about 110 degrees now. So if I can get it to 20 million people, statistically, apparently, that's the magic number, because you can stand up and say, I've helped a profound percentage of the motorcycling population.
Yeah.
Do I believe that? I don't care. Well, if you help one person, who helps another, who helps another.
That's part of our mission here with our YouTube channel, is
Sure.
to spread knowledge and experience, and obviously have some fun along the way. But one of the statistics that we found out recently, which our whole month of August, we've been trying to compile footage and stuff towards safety. But one of the staggering statistics was just in our state, or Washington state here, there's been 68 deaths as of 2 weeks ago, motorcycle related. And a lot of it is due to, speeding, lack of situational awareness. Probably one of the leading contributors is people not wearing the right gear when they're riding on the street.
Yep.
I don't know how many guys, both sport bikes and touring and your cruiser bikes, guys on a t-shirt, jeans or shorts, and they're Adidas,
Yeah, it's unfortunate.
But so we're right there in line with you and wanting to spread, knowledge and awareness to help change lives, keep people coming home to their families.
Right. And thank you for letting me be a part of that push into the community to have them think differently.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of people out there, like in our motorcycle world, just here, that as soon as you start talking anything about motorcycle safety or maybe doing things a little different or wearing gear, they're like, shut up, I don't want to hear.
Oh
you.
yeah.
Don't tell me how to ride.
That's
and
when
it's unfortunate.
that's when you take a belt sander and just go, come here, give me your arm. This is 5 miles an hour, and I'll do it for a tenth of a second. You're out of your mind, and you're wearing what?
Yeah. What do you
And
think
just try and
asphalt's going to do?
Spin the perspective, like the rental car analogy. It's always a good one. Where's the bottom out of your forks?
Yeah.
It's all, like we say, we can keep going here and have a lot more discussion, but the bottom line on that is, if rider knowledge comes up, then statistics should start dropping.
Yeah.
So if we're both engaged in that mission, hopefully we can make a profound difference over the next 3 to 5 years in the state of Washington.
Exactly. All right, well, thank you, Dave.
Thank you, sir.
We really appreciate you coming and sitting down with us and
You're
having
welcome.
this experience. And hopefully next time you're in town, we can do this again.
Sure, anytime. Absolutely.
All right.